The psychology of habit formation. Imagine waking up each morning and running through your usual routine. You brush your teeth, scroll your phone, maybe start the coffee. You probably don't even think about it, right? That's the power of habit. These automatic behaviors shape a large portion of our daily lives, sometimes helping us move through the day efficiently, other times holding us back. Today we want to walk through how habits actually work, what happens in the brain when a habit forms, and how we take control to build better ones. As college students, we're constantly juggling priorities, assignments, work shifts, meals, sleep schedules, and everything in between. Developing better habits isn't just about being productive. It's about protecting our mental space and setting ourselves up for long-term success. I spent a lot of time reading the psychology behind habit forms, and I found that when we understand the science, we can actually take back control over our behavior. Let's start with what habits are and how they function. According to psychologist Wendy Wood and researcher Dennis Runger in a 2016 review, a habit is a behavior that becomes automatic through repeated performance in a stable context. In other words, it's something you do often enough in your same situation that your brain just starts doing it without asking permission. Charles Duhigg, in his book The Power of Habit, breaks this process down into what's called the habit loop. It includes 3 parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue is what triggers the habit. That might be your alarm clock going off or walking into the kitchen. The routine is the actual behavior, like checking your phone or pouring a cup of coffee. Then there's the reward. This could be anything from feeling alert to just satisfying a craving. Over time, your brain learns to connect that cue to the reward, making the routine more automatic. Now let's look at what's happening in the brain while all this is going on. Research from Anne Graybiel at MIT, published in the Annual Review of Neuroscience in 2008, shows that habits are heavily tied to a part of the brain called the basal ganglia. This area is deeply involved in decision-making and motor control. When habits form, activity in this region increases. Over time, actions move from being conscious and goal-driven to automatic and hardwired. Harvard neuroscientists Bernard Yin and Barbara Knowlton from UCLA also explained in a 2006 paper that when we repeat behavior in the same setting, the brain starts to build strong neural pathways. This means that action becomes more and more ingrained. It's kind of like carving a groove in a piece of wood. The more you go over it, the deeper the patterns become. Wolfram Schultz, a researcher in neuroscience, found in a 2016 study that dopamine, the brain's feel-good chemical, is released during rewarding behaviors. That chemical response strengthens the habit loop. Dopamine tells your brain, "This is good. Remember this." Your body becomes more likely to repeat the behavior in the future. So how do we use this information to build better habits and break the bad ones? B.J. Fogg, a behavior scientist at Stanford, has a helpful approach. In his 2019 book, Tiny Habits, he argues that starting small is key if you want to start flossing. Don't try to floss all your teeth at once, for an example. That might sound ridiculous, but the point is to make it so easy that you can't fail. Once it becomes a regular part of your day, it grows naturally. Another useful strategy, called implementation intentions, psychologists Peter Gollwitz and Paschal Sheeran did a meta-analysis in 2006 and found that people who make specific plans like, after I pour my morning coffee, I'll read 1 page of my textbook, are more likely to stick with their goals. These if-then plans help connect a new behavior to a cue that already exists in your routine. That makes it easier to follow through. There's also something to be said about our surroundings. A 2012 study by David Neal and his colleagues found that our environment plays a major role in shaping habits. If you want to start eating healthier, put fruit out on the counter and hide the junk food. If you're trying to stop scrolling social media late at night, plug your phone in across the room. Make good habits convenient and bad habits inconvenient. Of course, motivation can fade. That's why it helps to track your progress and celebrate small wins. According to Filippo Lally and Benjamin Gardner in a 2013 paper, reinforcement or feeling good about your success helps habits stick. That doesn't mean throwing a party every time you go to the gym, but even quietly acknowledging progress builds momentum. Let me share a quick example from my own life. I used to hit snooze 4 or 5 times every morning. I'd wake up groggy and already behind. But when I started setting out my clothes in the night before and putting my phone across the room, I had no choice but to get up. After about 3 weeks, I didn't need to think about it anymore. That's when I realized it had turned into a habit. Let's go over what we've covered. First, habits are automatic behaviors that form through repetition in a consistent setting. Second, parts of the brain like the basal ganglia and the release of dopamine play a big role in how habits get wired. And third, we look at real strategies to help better habits, like starting small, linking habits to cues, designing a supportive environment, and tracking progress. The good news is we're not stuck with these habits we have right now. By learning how habits work, we can shift our behavior in a way that helps us. It won't happen overnight, but with consistency and a little intention, we can turn small changes into something powerful. As we move through our routines each day, we can choose to shape our habits rather than be shaped by them. If we give our brains the right cues and the right reasons to follow through, we're capable of making meaningful changes that last. Thank you.